my first real job in the real world, I guess you want to call it that, was to manage the first and second fix of a 22-story skyscraper. It was deep end, no armbands, with weights tied around my ankles, is probably how you want to describe that leap. It was absolutely bonkers.
So coming up is my conversation with Martin Jewell. I'm really looking forward to this one coming out. It was a great conversation. Martin has had a brilliant, really interesting career background. He started off working in the Air Force. He then worked on some huge construction projects. And he told me a story that one of the things he learned from one of the jobs he had to walk away on was because of a really toxic business culture that had developed. I personally think that the culture that gets created in a business is one of the most important things that lead to the success or failure of that business. And failure may mean just a high turnover of staff, people not being particularly energized or effective in what they're doing, spinning their wheels basically. So Martin, after that, he then went on to found his own business, got into 3D printing, and he's really passionate, and he's built a team around him who are really passionate and work really well together. So the lessons that he learned there by the mistakes that had been made and that had led to that toxic culture that he'd found himself in, I think really burned within him, that made it really clear to him the mistakes that can be made, and he made sure to build a great culture in the business that he started out of that. It's a great conversation about how 3D printing is going to affect the manufacturing industry, but it's also a really interesting kind of case study about how to build a great culture within your business and about how that can lead to success for the business itself and for the people within that. So let's get straight into that now with Martin. Hey, Martin. How's it going? Welcome to the podcast. Nice to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.
Whereabouts are you joining us from today?
So we're in Rapid Fusion HQ down in Exeter today.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Nice part of the world.
Down south is lovely. Lots of beaches. Well, supposed sunshine.
Yeah, it can have a good bit of work-life balance when you can get out there. I'm going to jump in with a slightly out there question just to get the ball rolling. Do you think the perfect job exists?
That's a good question. I think the only perfect job I've had is one that I've created for myself, in all honesty. And even that there's always something where for me, like, I look at a job slightly different, I guess. I look at a job in terms of like a task. I need to get from A to B, right? And when you're thinking about how you get from A to B, there's always parts of that journey which are uncomfortable. And unfortunately, you kind of have to suck that up, don't you? So there's always going to be an element of a job which you don't like. But I think as long as you are content with the journey that either the business that you're working with is on or the journey you've put yourself on, and I think that's how you measure whether you enjoy it. And that journey is, I guess, it's all about the destination of whether it be the company vision or whether it be the destination of what you're trying to create yourself as an organization. So I guess I didn't particularly answer your question, but yeah, I think the perfect job can exist, but it's a journey. So it's not always going to be roses and sunshine.
No. And there's sometimes something to be said to push yourself outside your comfort zone, and to get more comfortable doing things that you maybe, weren't that comfortable with doing in the past. That can be a good place to get to.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's always elements of something. There's certain things now that I do on a daily basis, which I've never particularly enjoyed. And I think the more you do it, the I guess the less burdensome it becomes. And it becomes the norm, right? So yeah, and then you get more and more comfortable in that state.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back a bit. So talk us through what happened when you were leaving school at 16. What did you do next?
So I guess I always grew up in a family where it was always encouraged that we work for what we have. So I actually wanted to go to university originally to study something like architecture or something like that. But that kind of, unfortunately, it wasn't wasn't the done thing in my from my background and in my family. So I was encouraged to go out and find a job. So I was really struggling. I wanted some sort of like hands-on-y role, but I struggled to find anything locally. So I actually decided to join the military in the end. So I joined the Royal Engineers as a carpenter and joiner. So yeah, that was my first, I guess, real career job. I had other jobs between sort of 16 and 17. I worked in KFC. That was fun. And some other odd bits. But yeah, so I guess from leaving school from now, I've always been employed. Always had
So
something.
what would you say was the biggest lesson or experience from being in the military that shaped you through to today?
Yeah, sure. I think back to your statement earlier, really, about being out of your comfort zone. Being in the military is so there's some parts of it which I loved and some parts of it which didn't really compute with me. So I guess with the military, it's very prescribed. You kind of always know what you got to do. There's always someone telling you, okay, this is where you got to be, and you got to be wearing this equipment, and you're going to be doing this. And so that structure and the discipline that instills into you has been really good for me, and it's served me really well. And I guess that's back to the statement about there's always bits of a job that you don't like. Like the military make you do things that are very uncomfortable, but having the ability to switch off a part of your brain and just thinking, okay, this has got to be done because we're trying to achieve a bigger thing as a team is a really good lesson that I've learned, and it's kind of instilled into me that that's just what we do. And again, it's all about the journey, right? Yeah, being able to sort of push through and grizz through those bits that aren't necessarily fun, but will get you to your end destination.
To that destination, yeah. So what came next then because you left the military, you moved on?
Yeah, so I did 10 years in the military, and yeah, then I guess I had a family and a wife, and at that stage I was like, okay, I think I've done enough now. So I moved on, and I actually joined a construction firm. So I decided, obviously, I had a background in carpentry journey, which I was taught in the military. So I had a skill there. So I needed something that was transferable. So I guess the transferable parts of that were the construction element and also some sort of junior leadership elements, which I gained as a skill set in the military. So I did lots of networking, and I managed to somehow wangle myself a job as a site manager on a construction site with Kier Construction. So my first real job in the real world, I guess you want to call it that, was to manage the first and second fix of a 22-story skyscraper. It was deep end, no armbands, with weights tied around my ankles is probably how you want to describe that leap. It was absolutely bonkers. And yeah, I guess I managed to persuade someone to put me in that position, but it was scary because I was in that protective bubble of the military of like knowing exactly what I was doing day to day and quite comfortable, I guess, to them being in the big wide world with some real responsibilities for not only people's safety, but for quite substantial budgets, and decisions that were made were very costly if you made them wrong. So yeah, it was really, I was very lucky that the team around me at that stage were like top of their game, because it was one of the biggest projects that the company were doing in our region at the time. So they had like the A team as leadership, and I guess having good, strong leaders around you and having the mindset of listening to that expertise is what really enabled me to achieve what I achieved on that project, because I had good guidance.
How do you feel you had to change, to bring that through to the success? Did you have to, step up a level, or did you take it in your stride? How did that work out?
I'm never the sort of guy that would get phased, sort of outwards looking in, I guess. I guess, how do I describe it? So say if a lot of things are going wrong all at once, I actually get more clarity than less, or lots of things are coming at me all at once. I guess everything in my brain sort of slows down and I get to focus on lots of things. And I actually feel I feel calmer in the eye of the storm, I guess, than I would in a job where it's kind of like, I guess, more wishy-washy. Like I knew what was expected. Like we had a tight deadline, and I knew that I needed to get, again, it's that journey, right? I needed to get from where we were now to a finished building. And it was all about, yeah, I guess learning. The learning curve was massive, but what I do pride myself on is the ability to listen and only speak in a meeting, for example, where I'm adding value. So I would just listen and just absorb all the knowledge around me and do research in the background. And no question is a stupid question. And just, yeah, I think listen to the experts around you, and then you absorb all that data. And then once you've got all the data, you can make an informed decision. And that's especially important when you're in a role where where you could be feeling like you're out of your depth. It's not about just like panicking and shouting really loud about knowing things that you probably don't. It's all about actually absorbing all those data points from lots of different places and then making an informed decision. And I guess those lessons that I learned in that time, because it was so new, they like imprinted on me of like, okay, this is the way you approach a new scenario. And the best way to manage a large team is to listen to the experts, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Keep your eye on the goal and just make sure you're all kind of pushing towards reaching that goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Well, that sounds like a fun. So how long was that, for a few years that you were involved in that then?
Yeah, so I did construction for 5 years. So the first project was the skyscraper, and then I did a few other smaller-ish ones, and then the last construction role I had was with a different company, and that was a large project. That was 120 million, and I sort of, yeah, that one there. It was a really tricky project. The project team weren't as experienced, so the senior team, and I think at that point I kind of lost the love for it, because you can achieve amazing things when the whole team are going in the same direction, but when the team is disjointed and it's a toxic environment, everything is hard work. It's like running through syrup, right? And when you feel like you're the only person in the room that's talking any sense and everyone is just totally deluded around you, it's a very tricky environment for me to be in personally, because I have a real passion about trying to do the best I can, and when everyone's pulling in different directions, it's a not a nice environment to be in. And again, I've taken that as a learning an event. So now I'm in I guess a senior position within our business and a leadership role. I acutely understand what a toxic environment feels like. So I would never allow that environment to fester within our organization, because it's not conducive for getting stuff done.
So what do you think the key thing, in doing that is? Because, issues come up between, in the team, within people. How do you stop that, escalating?
I think it's just nipping it in the bud straight away, right? So I guess we've had instances, maybe even as like a snap moment where everyone's tired and we're all like trying to focus on our one little thing. But my role is to stand above that, right? And refocus everyone's head on the overall goal. Like, for example, this product launch we've just done, it was very, very tight. And I was demanding, outwards looking in, a lot from the team. But I think they all realized what we were aiming towards. And it's all about instilling the vision of what we're trying to achieve. And if everyone understands what the end destination is and everyone has a will to get there, it doesn't particularly matter if they're thinking, oh, this bit's really important. It may be very important to the individual, but my role is to ensure that everyone knows what the whole path looks like, so we all can pull in the same direction. And I think that was the key moment where people may have got a little bit short or snappy with each other, where we just have a timeout and we just gather everyone in. I'm like, look, guys, I understand that this is stressful and you all think what you're doing is super important, and it is, but we need to be quite clear now. This is the road we're on. And to achieve that, you all got to enable each other. electrical, you need to enable mechanical, and all vice versa. So all these disciplines and the team members, they all got to play into the same program of works, and and as long as everyone knows what's expected of them, and they all know that, okay, there's going to be concessions where sometimes your job is going to be a little bit harder because you got to enable the next guy. But if you don't enable the next guy, we don't get to the end, guys. We don't get there on time. And I think them fully understanding where we're going on a daily basis is the only way that they can tolerate each other and not feel like it's him against her, or any of that jazz. We're all one team, because we all want to succeed. And I think that's the key, is making sure everyone wants to succeed and not having like a blame culture, because things go wrong. You know what I mean? People will blow things up. Equipment will go puff, and it was an accident. No one's done it maliciously. And those sort of moments where internally I'm just like going mad in my head, because I'm like, damn, it's not even the money, it's the time. We don't have time to get that new piece of equipment or whatever it may be. But you just got to say, okay, that has happened. Let's think of a plan A and a plan B to make sure that we can solve that problem as a team, and never just lay blame, because that person, I can guarantee you, they feel really bad. They didn't mean to do it, and they're like, oh no, I'm risking X, Y, and Z. But it's not us as a business. We shouldn't be putting additional pressure on, because that's not required. They've already done that to themselves, and the reason why they've done that to themselves, because they care. And the only way you get someone to care is you get them to believe in a vision.
And that, again, that how you react in that kind of one-time moment, it's a one-off moment, but that how they're treated, that will stay with them for, the rest of the time in the team, won't it? And that's remembered. And everyone else in the team is conscious how that situation's being handled.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, these things happen. So if anything, only reaction you get out of me is, I would ask them to just go and get themselves a cup of tea, because I need them to come back with a clear brain, because I need I need to action a new plan, right? And I don't need anyone who's spiraling out of control because they're all stressed. I need people with good, clear heads, and we can come together as a team and to make a new plan, right?
So let's just go back to a bit. So you're doing these big construction projects. At what point did you start to think about having a complete change in direction? How did that come about?
It's actually my brother, actually, that sort of tried to persuade me to have something on the side. So he suggested that I could start a side hustle, I guess. And he's like, oh, you should sell something. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't really do selling things, but I'll have a little look. And I actually stumbled across additive manufacturing. I think I was sat in the garden, actually, just chilling out on one Sunday afternoon. I was like, okay, what do people want to buy? I was like, well, I can't just sell something that everyone else is selling. So let's figure out kind of what's new and up and coming. And I found 3D printers. I was like, okay, I've obviously heard of them, but I don't really know a lot. So I did a little bit of research. I noticed it was, I guess, a uptrend in kind of the industry was going in the right direction, right? You don't want to be picking an industry and trying to sell TVs or something that everyone's selling. So it needs to be something different. So I guess my first step was I found a supplier, and I listed them on Amazon and eBay. And whilst I was building skyscrapers or whatever it would be, I had my phone pinging off in my pocket, and I was trying to sort of coordinate a low key business, and it was kind of going okay. It was difficult because I didn't really know what I was selling in terms of a technical aspect, and I've sort of realized quite fast it's a very demanding customer experience in terms of technical requirements, because it's so new, no one really knows how to use them. And
so they'd be looking to the seller for that advice.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of getting deeper and deeper into the technicals, and then we did all right though. Like I think I managed to sell £30,000 worth of printers before seeing one in real life. So
that's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. I don't think I made any money, but I sold them. So then I think the catalyst for change was that toxic environment that I described earlier. And that was the time when COVID just sort of kicked off, and Like the site was still running, but I don't know. I just in my head, it was just like a bit of a snap moment where I was just like, I just can't do this anymore because I wasn't happy. I was very, very stressed. I was working very, very hard and trying to drag project over the line that no one was on board in my train. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. So I decided to quit, and I went full time.
Great. So what? Well, so after you sold your first 30 grand of printers and you found you got to get more involved with the printers. Then what was it that excited you most about 3D printing?
I think it's the freedom and the design freedom. So the freedom it gives the end user. And I guess I didn't realize this, but my wife probably did for me. But I'm actually a bit of a geek at heart, I think. And I think I may hide it quite well. But yeah, so like it is interesting. And I like to understand how things work. And I guess I'm an all-in type of guy. So yeah, I went from sort of fixing the odd bug here and there, being a bit of a user, and we employed sort of technical person to help out. So yeah, just sort of learning off them and learning from like the experiences that we had in terms of support tickets and this and then I guess that's how like Rapid Fusion has sort of been born, really, which is the OEM side of our business is out of the need for better products. Because I have I guess a unique way of looking at design and how I think something should work, and it sort of boggles me how sometimes customers other OEMs don't do a certain thing, and I'm like, okay, I really just need control of that and being able to fix it ourselves and design in a certain way that feels good for us.
Yeah. So what, since you've over the years then, what's a kind of the best application that's excited you the most then of what people have done with
so
printers?
We specialize in large format, which is anything above sort of 600 millimeters cube, really, all the way up to, I don't know, we're working on a project at the moment to print like a whole boat, which is, I think, is 10 meters long, this project. So like really, really big. So for me, it's the taking an industry which is developed from sort of trinkets to prototyping all the way through to something that's truly industrialized and mass manufacturing and large format and industrialized in terms of like how businesses can have a product which is actually useful. So it's all born from the use case, right? There's no point just making a piece of equipment because it can do X, Y, and Z. We're here to make equipment that solves problems. So the customer problem is what excites me. I like it when someone comes to me and says, we want to make this. And then my brain can unpack that into, okay, how do we then make a custom piece of equipment, or have we got something already in our business that can solve that problem?
I see. So what would you think we are now? So it's gone beyond trinkets. What stage do you think we're at now with additive manufacturing, and what do you think's to come in the future?
Yeah, sure. So we're at the stage now where there are a number of companies, Rapid Fusion included, that are starting to really get some machines out which are predictable. And so the reason why we can go from trinkets to, I guess, low volume manufacturing is the fact that you've got a machine that's dependable, and it will also have the flexibility to achieve what the clients need. So we're at the stage now where I think low volume manufacturing is definitely possible, especially with the new features that we've brought out in our Medusa system, which is our new large format 3D printer, which enables a fully connected machine which connects into a factory setting. And it's not just a standalone piece of equipment, which is an oddity in a back room in the corner or something.
Okay, so in the future, you think that that's just going to become more embedded, and that volume
exactly
the volume
that
will grow.
Yeah, so it's for me the vision of kind of what the industry should be like in the next 5 to 10 years is smart tooling, and it's that Internet of Things, I guess, broad statement that everyone makes, but it's very important to have your equipment connected to the piece of equipment next to it, whether that be multiples of our systems communicating to produce parts in the most economical fashion, all driven by AI models. And then also linking that with predictive maintenance and having a ecosystem that is working in the most efficient manner. And that's all done not by operators, but all led by solid data. And that'll be data driven from the machine itself.
That sounds brilliant. Yeah, and that sounds a great kind of, again, you're setting that kind of clear path of that's and that journey of this is what we're aiming for, and you're kind of on the road to get there.
And that's really key for when you're building a product roadmap, because if you don't know where your destination is, obviously we can't do all that at once, right? One, we're a small company, we don't have the resource. Two, a lot of that infrastructure is not there. So it's all about building the roadmap to enable those things. So for us, everything is hardware front loaded at the moment. So we have sensors that are not being utilized to their full capacity right now, but they're there. So we can build a software interface to enable us to gather that data and do something meaningful with it. So I think that's the key with data, is everyone talks about big data and talks about AI models and machine learning, but unless it's actually useful, then what's the point, right? So for us, it's all about, again, the use case and the problem. So we want to be able to solve the customer's problem. To solve the customer's problem, we need to gather that data and we need to do something meaningful with that data. So that's kind of the vision that I've set out for our technical roadmap, is ensuring that we bring out the products in the right order to get the most out of them. And everything is also designed to be in a modular state. So because the industry is moving so fast, I think one thing that a lot of businesses do is they sell a machine and then a year later they'll knock on the customer's door and say, oh, we've got a newer, bigger, better one. Why don't you buy this one? One, I don't think that's very economical in terms of environmentals. Also, I don't think it's very fair because it's very wasteful in terms of money. And also, I don't think it's the best way to build a strong relationship with your client base. So for us, everything we build is of a modular nature. So if we say, for example, build a new tool which is more efficient and it has more sensors and it does X, Y, and Z, we can then approach our client and say, look, we got a new tool. Don't worry, it will bolt onto your current system. Would you like an upgrade? Obviously, they purchase that upgrade off us, so there's some transaction going on, but they don't have to throw out a £500,000 piece of equipment they bought off us last year. They get to upgrade that. That's better for the environment. It's better for the company. Because actually, what I want them to do is be so happy they buy another machine because they need to.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That you're helping them to grow and they help you to grow. Yeah. So
exactly.
It's a much better way. So if you're enjoying this episode, please give us a follow on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That would help us to keep bringing authentic manufacturing conversations with the people who are shaping our industry. Thank you. So looking back, you've had quite a varied career then to where you are now. What connection do you see to these different careers? Do you see like a thread through them?
So the military is, I'm gonna call that my foundation, right? So the military is like grounded me as a good, upstanding human being and a good citizen, and given me, I guess, a good moral structure of kind of what right, wrong is, and giving me good discipline as a well-rounded person. And I guess that's all stems from like just the basics of the military, right? You make your bed every day, but they do that for a reason, right? So that's my foundation. And then the construction has given me a real working knowledge of project management, because obviously my current role is a CTO, right? But essentially I've still got to I'm going to keep using A to B. There's still a journey to be on, and to understand how your journey is made up, you need to have a good foundation of project management. You need to understand the key stakeholders. You need to understand the programmer works. You need to understand the commercials. And that's why I get to make good informed decisions, right? Because I understand how a project is made up. Everything that we do it's just a mini project. Whether And that's how I look at everything. It's just a small project, and it could be a very complex program of works. But again, that's just lots of small projects all bolted together. So that's how I like to look at everything, is in bite-sized chunks, because like we're trying to, if you talk about the full vision and how you get from where we are now to where we want to be as a business in 10 years, that's well overwhelming. And you get frozen in all the details. So that's why I like to break everything up into, I guess, manageable chunks and focus on those chunks. And again, that's just basic project management. And around that project management, you've got your key stakeholders, which could be external or internal. And those internal stakeholders are my engineers, right? And so that's how I've had the ability to, that looks like a massive like leap from construction to what I do now, but actually it's not. It's just, it's got the same core values and core skill sets.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That makes sense. So that you probably answered the other question I was going to ask, which was how you adapt. Well, I think this is slightly different. How you adapted to because it was a big change in industry as well each time you moved. So I get what you're saying about breaking the things down into chunks, but you mentioned before, you've obviously got very like familiar now, and you've got a good understanding of of your customer, your clients' manufacturing processes and the whole IoT thing in Industry 4. So yeah, did you just have to kind of immerse yourself in your customers' worlds, each time on those big changes?
Yeah, exactly that. It's all about the statement I made earlier. It's all about listening, right? Learning from what you hear and absorbing that data. And I am an all-in type of guy. So if I do something, I'm doing it. I don't do anything by halves, whether it be in my personal life or in my career. Or so yeah. I like to read kind of what the industry's doing. I like to see what everyone else is doing. I like to pick out bits that I like. I like to analyze and log the bits that I don't like. And then in terms of like how I take that as a whole picture is also, again, I guess a skill set which I've learned from my previous career in construction is, for example, I would be in many design team meetings, not a designer, right? But we're all discussing a problem, and everyone around that room has got lots of technical insight on how to solve that problem. And it's all about trying to pull the threads of that engineer and get him to give you the answer. Because generally they do know the answer. And it's all about how you analyze that person and how you understand how their brain ticks. Like I approach every person that works for us in a different manner, because I know some people need a direct approach for like for solving a problem. Some people just need to talk out loud. So it's all about understanding the people around you. And then I get to ask, I guess, leading questions, right? So you ask a question and then they'll just, it all spills out. And then we get to analyze that data together, and then we get to piece the problem together, and then generally we'll solve the issue. And I've done that in the construction industry, whether we're talking about, I don't know, HVAC system, or whether we're talking about a motion system in a printer that we're doing, or whatever the problem may be, or whether we're doing that with a client and we're understanding their core technical problems that they see in terms of how we can help them as a business. And so they're all interlaced skills.
Yeah. I see. Yeah, that's clear. Yeah, it's a good strategy that you've got. I'd like to jump into kind of a quick session called Myths or Truths, where I'll throw out a couple of statements out there. Just interested in your opinion if it's a myth or a truth. The UK is falling behind in advanced manufacturing compared to the US or Europe.
True.
Okay. I wasn't expecting you to say that. Why?
No, it's definitely true, because we are not investing. And the reason why we're not investing is because the government are not putting out as many grants as they ought to. And their focus is very much on digital. Like, we were very lucky to win a smart grant. We had Innovate UK at our event, and yeah, they were extremely happy with our project outcomes. But at the beginning of the project, they didn't seem overly keen. They gave us the money, obviously, but we were a risk to them, which I completely understand, because it's not something that they would normally put in their portfolio. So yeah, I think for us to be a real powerhouse, we need to invest. And that's investment in both in terms of grant funding, so government led, and then it's also an investment of having a country which is good for business for external foreign investment. And I don't want to go into a whole political debate. I probably don't know enough either to make firm facts, but yeah, my feeling is that we ought to be investing more, and there ought to be more opportunity for grant funding, and there ought to be more support in terms of R&D tax funding and all that sort of jazz to foster an environment where businesses are happy to invest, because we're a country full of bright people and we do have amazing ideas, and we just need to be put into an environment where we can thrive, and that environment is the country.
Startups can't really compete with more established companies when it comes to developing products like this.
False.
Okay, how so?
Startups are nimble as you like. So we were able to produce a whole machine with a team of 6 people in 18 months. I reckon if you put that same project in a big blue chip OEM, they'll still be discussing the color.
Yeah, true. Okay, good
but
answer.
I'm going to caveat that with it's very hard to fund it, and it's a big risk.
Yes. Yeah. But for the right funding and the right people, it can be done.
You can achieve anything.
Okay, leading on from that then, hiring the right people is more important than having the right business idea.
Definitely. Without people, you're nothing. I can't do nothing without the team around me. I can have all the bright ideas in the world, but who's going to make it?
Yeah. And the right people will help you get adjusted to the right ideas.
Without those motivated people with the right skill sets, there isn't a business. It's just an idea.
Being a founder means you get to work less and focus on the big picture.
No, that's not true. I'm a first in and last out, and maybe in 10 years' time that will change. But right now, we, as founding members of the business, you got to give everything you've got, everything, and that has also a detrimental effect on family, because you're working more hours than you should, and your whole focus is on making this venture work. And you kind of need to, right? You've got responsibilities for the people that you've employed. You got responsibilities to shareholders if you've got them, and you've obviously got responsibilities to each other as the founding team to give everything, because this is not an easy task.
Sure. Okay. Last one of these then. So you should wait until you feel fully ready before taking a big career leap.
No, that's not true.
Have you approached that?
Everything's a calculated risk, right? But if you get frozen in indecision because you need all the data, you never go anywhere. So yeah, and that will be from every decision you make, whether it be to cross the road or whether it would be to get another career. You make an informed decision with the data around you, but there's always an element of risk, right?
Yeah. But then just go for it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for indulging me with those little quick fire ones. I'd just like to talk a bit about Medusa now. What was the vision behind it, and what impact do you see it having on UK manufacturing?
Yeah, of course. So Medusa, since we put together the bid, we put together a really loose scope of works, and that was by design, because we wanted to build a machine which was led by industry. So the first thing we did was put together an extremely strong consortium group. So the consortium group consisted of Rolls-Royce, the jet engine division. Baker Hughes were also a part of the initial discussions. We also had GKN Aerospace Company. So I guess we put together a pedigree of end users. And then we just asked them what they wanted to see. And then also Evil 3D, which is the sister company of Rapid Fusion, we sell to a lot of businesses. So we already had like a good list of pain points, and those pain points and the customer needs really defined the scope. So the scope sort of developed over like sort of 1 to 2 months at the beginning of the project. And that's what our main goal was to solve that customer problem again, right? And the customer problem is speed, reliability, and cost of not just the capital expenditure, but the cost of that part. And that the cost of that part is fed by speed and reliability, right? Because you can't scale without those two things. So we were like, okay, so how do we break that sort of time, quality, cost triangle, which is like I guess, a universal project management term, right? Like, I want my cake and I want to eat it. That's where my head was at. So to solve that, we needed a system which was not only, because we know you could buy like 3 machines, for example, that does those things well. But the trouble is with the current large format machines that I see is that there's always a sacrifice. You're either printing really, really fast and you're getting poor quality. You're printing in low resolution to get faster speeds, but again, low quality. So how do I break that triangle? And the way we decided to do that was with a multi-tool approach. So the machine itself is a hybrid machine. So we have a motion system which is extremely fast, and that aids us in that speed factor. And then also we have 3 unique tools to do 3 unique jobs. But a project, sometimes you need different tools to do. I guess it's like the jack of all trades, but the master of none sort of springs to mind. But we kind of need it to be the jack of all, and also we need it to be a master, right? To do that, we need the hybrid approach. So what we've got is we've got a pellet extruder, which enables us to print near net shape really, really fast. And that's particularly important for high value manufacturing when people need to make, say, mold tools, for example. So a mold tool, if you're going to make that in a traditional fashion, you could be waiting maybe 5 to 6 weeks for it to come back from the suppliers, machine from a solid piece of metal. You could pay up to £20,000 for the tool because it's very specialized and very expensive. But with our system, we could print the tool in an afternoon, and then the next day you could mill it. So you could go from idea to finished mold to then laying up in 3 or 4 days at a fraction of the cost. In terms of material, you could probably print a mold for maybe £200-300 worth of raw material. And so that's just one vertical that our machine solves. And you can do the whole element in one piece of equipment, right? And you could argue, why don't you just get a CNC machine and why don't you get a large format 3D printer? Then you got to think about like the holistic cost of training your staff, of holding spares for multiple different machines. If we have a machine which is, I guess, an all-in-one solution, but is also very good at all those single elements, what we can then do is we can cut the cost of the training. And also what the core mission statement of in terms of usability was, ironically, we do have a Karen from accounts now. This is going to make sense in a second. I said to the team, okay, this needs to be so simple that Karen from accounts can put on a print. And if Karen from accounts can't put on a print, we've royally mucked it up. We've made it too complicated. And the reason why we can do that is because we've looked at it in a completely different way. We've actually got inspiration from the desktop market. So the desktop market is very user-friendly because anyone can spend sort of £300 to £500 and have a 3D printer on their kitchen table, and they can teach their kids how to make trinkets. And the reason why they can do that is because it's easy to use, right? But you wouldn't expect to go up to a £500,000 machine in a factory and know how to put on a print or know how to CNC something, because you're trying to do something that's really complicated, right? And it's very, very specialist. But the key to good design is making it so simple that it's all about that one click. Like, if we can't do it in one click, why can't we do it in one click? And that's the question you've got to ask your team. So, okay, so why do we need 10 buttons? And that's generally because we're not utilizing the workflow correctly, and we've not utilizing the sensors that we need to install. We're not put a sensor in a certain place because the machine is dumb and it needs the user to say what state it's in. But if you make your machine intelligent and you make your tools smart, it can then take away the decision tree, and taking away the decision from the user, because 90% of the technical issues we get from the evil 3D side of the business, for example, is user error. And it's so if you take away the user decision to break that machine because the machine knows it can't break itself because it's in a safe state, that's the root cause of the problem is the user. So to fix the user, you got to fix the user experience. So that's kind of like the key to the usability of our machine is taking away unnecessary decisions that can be harmful to the user or the machine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that makes sense, and if you don't have someone who's on the, all day, every day, printing off stuff, that you're not going to have people who are absolute experts and know every single part of machine in and out. So having a machine that just knows that and can control that that's a great solution. What would you say the Innovate funding that you secured for this helped you achieve?
Without the Innovate funding, we would have built a machine, but it wouldn't have never been to the same specification as we'd done, because we just couldn't afford it as a business, because obviously we're a startup and it's a lot of cost, right? And a lot of risk. So yeah, without the funding, we couldn't have pushed the scope or the envelope of what we've managed to achieve nearly as far. So it would have been very basic, and it probably would have been watered down. The vision would have been watered down. But I was very lucky that I could have like a vision of what I wanted to build, and there wasn't really many limitations other than time. Obviously, there were budgetary constraints, but there was enough budget for me to indulge most things whilst kind of keeping a commercial eye on not building. I likened it to Homer Simpson's car in that episode where he got to design his own and it was bankrupt the whole company, because that's quite easy to do, right? Where a project can go arms and legs and you're trying to solve all the problems at once. So, and also when you got a team of very talented engineers, it's very hard, especially near the end of a project, to keep them in line, because they really want to solve every single bug and every single problem like now. But when you've got like a very tight deadline, because 18 months to go from a fag packet idea to a fully working prototype and showing the likes of Rolls-Royce, Aston Martin F1, and is no mean feat. So you got to be really focused on, okay, we're now locked in on our decisions of what our scope is, and now we just got to achieve it, right? But we managed to design lots of, like I said, it was very front end heavy in terms of sensors. So we've got the ability to sort of grow the ecosystem. So we haven't designed ourselves into a corner. I think that was always the key, is to have a system which is modular by design so we can improve without having to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, that sounds great. So what do you see as next for Medusa, or for you in the business?
Yeah, sure. So I think we need to get Medusa into the wild, essentially. So we've got a few good conversations that are already starting to spark up with getting the first units out to customers. And that's key to us, because we need to understand what it's, obviously we can have it in its current position where we're just putting prints on every day, but having it in a actual factory setting is key to understanding what are the good bits, what are the bad bits, what bits of the workflow need improving. And those key customers at the beginning are going to be vital for us, because again, I like to listen, right? So if someone can't figure something out without being taught or told, generally you've not done something right. Either it's not been designed intuitively enough, or you've not given them the tools to succeed. So this is going to be really important for the success of Medusa. And then in terms of Medusa as an ecosystem, we're in a situation now where we're aiming for more Innovate UK funding, and that there will unlock additional features which are probably software related. And I guess there's some AI bits in there which we would like to explore. to make the machine more efficient. I guess the idea is that you buy a Medusa and it actually gets better over time than worse, whether it be through continuous upgrades of hardware or whether it be because we've patched out a new piece of software which is utilizing cloud-based AI and the such like for general improvements of efficiency and all those sorts of good stuff. So that's the vision of how we develop the ecosystem. And then I guess from there, we wanted to be in a position where customers are in a happy situation and they want to expand the fleet. And once we get to the sort of fleet management side of things, again, that will spin out more software to enable us to manage multiple machines and build queues and turn it into a real factory-ready ecosystem. But again, it's all about that technical journey is being done in such a way where we want to bring the right piece of software out at the right time, so that that's sort of all planned out essentially.
Yeah. Great. It sounds like a great journey that you're going to go on over the next few years with this. It's going to be a really fun, kind of fascinating time, isn't it? Seeing these roll out and seeing it, shake things up a bit.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to be a real, there's nothing out there that we've seen at the moment, unless someone's going to bring something out next week. You never know. But yeah, I think as a team, we've managed to create something which is very unique in the marketplace at the moment. And is actually solving a real world problem, which I think is good, because sometimes just because it's different and unique doesn't mean it's useful.
Well, it sounds like, you're always, as you said before, you're always focused on listening to what people want. So I think you guys keep on track there. Thank you for the chat today. I found that really, really fascinating. That was really interesting. I'd like a quick takeaway before we go, just going back to your kind of career overview, because you've had a great journey. What would you say is one mindset shift or maybe a habit that could help people, take action in their careers, maybe even when they haven't figured everything out?
I think haven't figured everything out is the key takeaway from that statement, really. No one's got everything figured out. I think people get into this mindset, don't know that many young people, but the people that I do speak to that are kind of, I guess, young and just about to finish university or even pick a university course. They're like really fixated on the perfect job and the perfect journey. I don't know whether it's the Instagram world we're living in, I'm not quite sure, but everything is a journey. And sometimes you just have to open a door and then it may not be the right one for you, but another one will open and you'll just sort of holistically get to where you want to be. But just being frozen in fear of picking the wrong door.
The wrong one, yeah. That's a final decision, yeah. And the decision you make there is...
Either.
Yeah.
I've had 3 full-on careers and I've only been working for, 17 years or whatever it is. And so you're not stuck forever. But yeah, you kind of, there's always you need to perhaps find something that's, I guess it's all about the data points, isn't it? If you're going to make a decision, you just sort of look at, okay, if I'm going to go into this sector, how much money do I make? Do I need to make that much money? And some people aren't motivated by that, which is fine. But I guess make an informed decision, but make a decision. I think that's key.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Where can people go to find out more about you and Medusa and the business?
Yeah, of course. So we're obviously on all the social media platforms, as you would expect. So LinkedIn, we have a strong presence. Our website, so rapidfusion.co.uk. There'll be all the specifications of Medusa and all our other product lines, which is Apollo and Zeus, which are robotic solutions for large format 3D printing. And just obviously you can always reach out to myself on LinkedIn, and we're always happy for a chat, and hopefully we can solve any problems that someone has, and it's kind of what we do.
Thanks a lot for your time, Martin. Really, really enjoyed that chat. Hope you have a great day. Take care.
And you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.